This is the Barry Richards Show. WBSM On Demand.
Without further ado,
WBSM presents The Barry Richards Show. Streaming live on WBSM.com and the WBSM app. Call 508-996-0500. Text us using App Chat on the WBSM app. Now, The Barry Richards Show.
Midnight at the Oasis. Send your camel to bed. Shadows painting our faces. Traces of romance in our head. Heaven's
All right, welcome to the program for Thursday. Partly sunny skies out there right now. Cool, about 61 degrees. A little bit of a breeze, but it's not too bad out there. Boy, what'd you think of that hail last night? I thought I was out in the Midwest, out in the plains. The way that hail was coming down, it was huge for around this area. We generally don't get large hail in southeastern Massachusetts, but I was looking at the weather bulletins that were coming over my phone. At one point, they were saying, look out for ping-pong-size hail in Fairhaven. And where I live in Dartmouth, though, we got hail, I would say somewhere between the size of, somewhere between the size of maybe a pea and a grape, small grape. But folks were posting online photos from all over the area. This was pretty widespread. Sometimes hail will be in a small area, but this seemed to be pretty widespread. Friends of mine in Rhode Island were posting pictures of hail, and all throughout this general area, some fairly good-sized hail. And, funny story, one time I was out in Arizona visiting my son, and it was pretty warm, and I noticed that where he parked in the parking lot at his apartment building, there were canopies over each space, where you parked. And so I said to him, being totally naive, I said, canopies over the cars, that's a nice feature here. Was that to keep the birds from pooping on your car? He said, no, that's to keep the cars from getting too hot and melting during the summer because it gets over 100 degrees and stays there for weeks at a time. And I said, okay, that makes sense. So then I went out to Colorado, Denver, to visit my other son. And where he lived, his apartment building also had canopies over the car. So I thought it'd be a smart ass to say, canopies over the car to keep the cars from getting too hot, huh? He said, no, that's to protect them from hail because we've got hailstorms here. And the hail is so big that it dents the cars. After a hailstorm, there'll be pockmarks all over everybody's cars. And he said, the dealerships constantly having sales on cars that have been pocked by hail. So he said a lot of times you can get a good deal on a car if you don't mind having pockmarks all over it. So I said, wow, that's okay. So I learned something there a couple of times. And, looking at the hail that was coming down last night and seeing some of the photos that were posted. As a matter of fact, the National Weather Service in its bulletin about the storm said expect injuries to people and animals that are outdoors and expect damage to roofs and to cars. Now, I haven't heard any reports of damage today, but I was kind of looking forward to coming out this morning to see what kind of damage there might be around me. I haven't seen anything. I haven't heard anything. But I don't know if your car got damaged or maybe vegetation got damaged. Maybe you got damaged. I don't know. By the hail, let us know how you made out. 508-996-0500. So that was quite interesting. So a lot of interesting things going on. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says that he had a worm in his brain and that the worm had eaten a portion of it, quote unquote. Did you hear about this? Robert F. Kennedy Jr., presidential candidate. He says that he was informed by a doctor that a worm had gotten into his brain and had eaten a portion of it. This was in a 2012 deposition that occurred while he was getting a divorce from his second wife. Kennedy revealed that doctors had noticed a dark spot on his brain scans, claiming it was a brain tumor, according to the New York Times. Kennedy's revelation during the deposition came 2 years after he began experiencing severe memory loss and fogginess. I have cognitive problems, clearly, Kennedy said during the deposition. I have short-term memory loss, and I have longer-term memory loss that affects me. Well, I suppose that doesn't disqualify him from being president. Look what we've got in there right now, but holy cow. After scheduling a procedure to remove what doctors believed was a tumor, Kennedy said he received a phone call from another doctor from New York Presbyterian Hospital who explained that he believed the dark spot on his brain scans was actually a dead worm. During the deposition, Kennedy explained that the doctor said the dark spot was caused by a worm that got into my brain and ate a portion of it and then died. Around the same time frame that Kennedy had learned about the dead parasite in his brain, he found out he had mercury poisoning. Mercury poisoning occurs when an individual has generally eaten too much seafood, or more specifically, fish containing mercury. Why is that not getting more coverage, do you think? Why is that story not getting a whole lot of coverage today? I spotted that last night on spotted it on Breitbart, but it's a New York Times story. It's a rehash of a New York Times story. Not getting a whole lot of coverage. If one of the presidential candidates says, yes, I have short-term memory, I have long-term memory, I have cognitive issues, I had a worm in my brain that was eating my brain, ate a portion of my brain, don't you think that should get... anybody remember Muskie? When Muskie ran for president? Anywho, moving right along, Governor Maura Healey and Michelle Wu, as you know, are going to Italy. They're going to Italy. They're going to visit the Pope. They're going to give a keynote speech at the Vatican on climate change. They're going to have a private meeting with the Pope, or they call that an audience with the Pope, right? I've been telling you about this, but we're starting to learn a little bit more about it. And Boston Herald had a story this morning. And guess who's paying for Maura Healey to go to Italy to meet with the Pope? Yeah, you are. Of course you are. Governor Maura Healey and Mayor Michelle Wu plan to use public dollars to cover a trip to Italy next week that will include a private audience with Pope Francis, though the total cost of the trip will not be known until after it's over. It's kind of like you got to read it to know what's in it, right? Healey and Wu were invited by the Pope to provide a keynote address at the opening session of a climate-focused conference hosted by the Vatican. The governor has pitched the trip as a way to strengthen the state's economic and diplomatic ties to Italy, which is Massachusetts' 10th largest trading partner. This is according to Healey's office. Healey spokesperson Carissa Hand said Healey plans to pay for the trip with money from the Massachusetts Tourism Trust Fund, a multi-million-dollar account used to promote tourism in the state and help regional tourism councils. It is in part funded by the tax on gross gaming revenues generated by local casinos, according to state law. So, I don't know, when you went gambling and you put your money down, you said, well, I know some of my taxes going into this thing and I got to pay for tourism, yeah. So, if the tourism council has less money because Maura Healey's in Italy using money from its budget, you'll know why. Because the governor is going to have a great vacation in Italy, and that's going to take money out of the regional tourism councils. And is this what you pay taxes for? I mean, if you pay taxes and the taxes are supposed to be dedicated to the Massachusetts Tourism Trust Fund, should Maura Healey be sticking her grubby little paws into that account to take money out for a trip to Italy with Michelle Wu? The fund is administered by the Massachusetts Marketing Partnership, which was created in 2010 to coordinate marketing efforts on behalf of the state. Sounds like a mighty nice slush fund to me. Sounds like a great little slush fund. The money is raised through taxes, And it's putting this account, Massachusetts Tourism Trust Fund. Yeah, okay. Until the governor wants to be a tourist. And then she goes to Italy and she takes the money out to pay for her trip. We will not have the cost until the conclusion of the trip, Han said in a statement to the Boston Herald. Healy is traveling to Rome, Italy with her climate chief, Melissa Hoffer, and 3 aides, a director of operations, the director of scheduling, and senior executive assistant to the governor, and Hand, according to the statement from her offices. About 5 people there, did I mention? The governor, Melissa Hoffer, 3 aides, a director of operations, director of scheduling, senior executive, and Hand. How much do you think that's going to cost you and me to pay for all of these folks on Healy's staff to go to Italy? I don't think they're going to eat at McDonald's either. I think they're probably going to eat a little bit on the high end, right? I don't think they're going to stay at the Red Roof Inn either. I don't think so. I don't think Howard Johnson's. No. I think they're probably going to stay in a pretty nice place. Healy's trade trip to Ireland last year cost roughly $83,000, which was largely covered by state funds and some private money. Now, a spokesman for Mayor Wu, Ricardo Petron, said the city of Boston plans to cover the mayor's flights to and from Italy and her hotel room. And you know she's going to have her meals paid for it too, right? Of course she's going to have her meals paid for it too. She's going in her official capacity as mayor. It's a work trip for her, so we are using public dollars, Patron told the Herald Wednesday afternoon. Wu plans to travel with Oliver Sellers Garcia, the city's Green New Deal director and communications staff member, and a communications staff. So this is kind of funny right here. She's going to Rome, Italy, to kibbutz with the Pope and deliver a climate change keynote address. And she's flying there on a big old jet airliner. You don't think they're going to swim or take a boat, do you? No, they're going to fly in a big, and I bet you're going to fly first class, too. And the city's Green New Deal director is going to fly right along. I wonder what their carbon footprint's going to be. A detailed itinerary for Wu is expected to be released later this week. As schedule set out earlier this week by Healy, showed the pair meeting with Pope Francis on Thursday of next week at, 4:40 a.m. Boston time. Healy said she's excited to pitch Massachusetts' climate and economic standing on the global stage and to make a case for businesses to grow in the Bay State. Of course she is. Wouldn't you? Somebody gave you an all-expense-paid trip to Italy and you got to meet the Pope, wouldn't you? I mean, I'd be excited too. At the outset of the trip, Healy and Hoffer plan to attend a business roundtable, followed by a meeting with Ambassador to the Holy See, Joe Donnelly. Oh, the corruption is so ripe in Massachusetts. Don't you just love this crap? Meanwhile, her transportation bulldog announcing, well, we're going after all the people with money. Remember that last week? Well, we're going after everybody with money. I'm going to put tolls everywhere. I'm going to toll your ass out of existence. So we can pay for more Healy to go to Italy. 508-996-0500 is the number. Trump announcing today that he is appealing the unconstitutional gag order against him. Stormy Daniels back on the stand today. Trump announced this morning on his way into court that his defense team has filed a motion to appeal the unconstitutional gag order that was imposed on him, restricting what he can publicly say about the case. I just want to let you know that we've just filed a major motion in the appellate division concerning the absolutely unconstitutional gag order, where I'm essentially not allowed to talk to you about anything meaningful that's going on in the case. And many good things are going on with this case. It shouldn't have been filed, he said. No evidence at all of any criminality, and that's the interesting part about that. Trump also read from legal experts some commentary on the case to members of the press, including a write-up from Alan Dershowitz and Jonathan Turley. This is a Frankenstein case. They took a dead misdemeanor. They attached it to a dead, alleged federal felony and zapped it back into life. So many of us are just amazed to watch this actually walk into court because it's not a recognizable crime that any of us have ever seen, Trump said, quoting Fox News contributor Turley. I've been doing this for 60 years, and I don't understand what crime he's been charged with. Nobody understands this. I just don't get the crime. There's no evidence of any crime whatsoever. This is a sham. Trump quoted Alan Dershowitz. So, on and on this thing goes, at least for now. Florida Republican Senator Rick Scott was in the courtroom today. He is right now watching the trial, showing support. Don't you think that's great? I know the Attorney General from Texas was in court recently. Eric Trump was in court, or was it Donald Trump Jr. was in court recently, and showing up to show support for the guy because people understand what's going on here. And Senator Scott says essentially this is a bunch of Democrats who are just trying to prevent Trump from campaigning. This can't continue. What's happening to this president is wrong. We're watching all over the country, watching all these cases that are going after somebody simply because he's a political opponent of Joe Biden, Scott told reporters. So Stormy Daniels on the stand this morning. Prosecution asked her some questions. Defense went after her. And I believe that she's being redirected at this point, or maybe they broke for lunch. I'm not sure. But so Stormy Daniels was asked about a statement that she released denying the encounter. You know, I've read them on the air to you twice. There were two statements, actually, both from 2019, where she denied it ever even happened. And so Trump lawyer Susan Neckles, is that how you pronounce it? Read parts of the statement, specifically the portions denying Daniels had sex with Trump. Daniels said she did not write the statements, but signed it. Didn't write the statement, but signed it. Trump's lawyer pointed to another statement where Daniels denied having a sexual relationship with Trump. One part actually reads, quote, "I'm denying this affair because it never happened." Daniels confirmed that former Trump attorney Michael Cohen, a convicted liar who's in prison right now, was pushing for her to sign the statement. Stormy Daniels also confirmed today to the court that she tells people that she can speak with their dead relatives. She was asked about this because apparently in January 2022, she claimed to be a medium who could communicate with non-living spirits. This during a fraud trial against her former lawyer, Michael Avenatti. I don't know, it just happens sometimes, Daniel said at the time, adding that she used cards and meditation and sometimes recorded the conversations she had with the dead. Under cross-examination at the time by Avenatti, Daniels was asked whether she had experienced poltergeist phenomenon, and she responded yes. We're dealing with quite a cast and crew here, aren't we not? 508-996-0500. Let's grab a couple of calls. We've got a whole lot more stuff to get into, including some startling information about the protesters on campus, too. So stay with us. But let's get some calls in. You are first on WBSM. Thanks for hanging on.
Hey, Barry. I don't even know about this. Speaking of Trump, you know that Arthur Enron is already under review by a Judicial Oversight Board in New York?
I'm sorry. What was the question again? One more time.
Arthur Enron, the judge in the Letitia James thing that we're going to steal $400 million from you, he's now being investigated by a Judicial Oversight Board in New York.
Oh, wow.
So he supposedly got unsolicited advice from some criminal, almost disbarred attorney on this case, and now he's under investigation. I'm not shocked. Listen, all these judges in New York are just ridiculously corrupt to the bone. This Stormy Daniels actually is killing the prosecution's case here.
Yeah.
If you listen to this. But this case is already literally just, it's already corrupt to the bone. The judge gave, the judge in the opening instructions to the jury told them that this was a federal elections crime. And it's not, because Trump was never charged with the federal elections crime.
Right.
You know, so you just blow it up there. It's ridiculous what's taking place. And then yesterday, he admonishes the defense for not objecting enough when Stormy Daniels is basically falling apart at the wheel on the stand. And she can talk to dead people. I mean, this is E. Jean Carroll. I mean, this is almost the same whack job you're dealing with. I mean, that case should have been tossed. because the defense was never allowed to prove that she was going to try to do this same stunt with the sexual assault on the former CBS president, Les Moonves. She had a bunch of people she was trying to pull this stunt on, claiming that she was sexually assaulted. So,
remember Judge Lance Ito, right? Judge Lance Ito in the OJ trial. He was so, he was so smitten with the national press, the international press, actually, that was covering the quote unquote trial of the century, that he lost control of that trial, and he just let anything come in. He didn't rule properly, and so on and so forth. And that's part of the reason why. The case went the way it did. But you've got the same kind of a judge here. I mean, not only is the judge corrupt, but I think he is so smitten by the fact that he's actually got Donald Trump in his courtroom and all the attention that's being given to this trial that, I mean, first of all, Stormy Daniels should not have been allowed to testify the way she did the other day. None of that is relevant to the case. And it was just a testimony that was put out there to besmirch the character of the witness. And that should not be allowed. And so for the judge to turn around later and admonish the defense and say, well, you should have objected more. Well, you shouldn't have even allowed the evidence in the first place because it's irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, all these cases, every one of these cases, it's all connected to the White House. Everyone knows it. The daughter of the judge basically works for Joe Biden. You've got Letitia James that had people in her office connected to Biden. Fannie Willis was at the White House meeting with Kamala Harris. And, of course, that boyfriend she talks about. You have Jack Smith. I mean, this is all connected to the White House. And it's all falling apart. As you notice, it's all falling apart because this case in general – there's no crime here. It's like the case with Enron. There's no crime. Well,
there was a famous quote back in the Reagan years when Reagan's labor secretary Ray Donovan went on trial and everything else, and he was cleared, and all kinds of allegations about that. And Ray Donovan says, "Where do I go to get my reputation back?" And so you got to look at a case like this. Trump is rich. There's no question about it. But where does Trump go now to recoup all of the money that this has cost him, the damage to his reputation, the time off the campaign trail? He's got no recourse. So at the very least, this whole circus from Florida to Washington to Atlanta to New York has cost him hundreds of millions of dollars, potentially the White House, besmirched his character and everything else, and he's got no recourse. Can he sue? Who does he go after to get his money and his reputation back?
My guess is if he wins the appeal on the Enron case with the $454 million, he can then countersue the state for harassment, for judicial harassment, because that case was such a farce of such high order. If that judge gets busted, Letitia James is going to get busted. You know she is. And then what happens is he's losing, and he had to put up almost a $200 million bond. He countersues the state of New York. Who pays for that? The taxpayers, because these people basically are being told what to do by the White House and others to do it. Quickly on the Maura Healey thing, you got to understand something about Massachusetts, Barry. Your money, my money, is their money. And that's why they take these ridiculous trips to Italy, and you're paying for it. They're going to go over there because they need to teach Europe how to basically push green energy cons to steal money from people and gain power. That's really what this is. Climate change. Are you kidding me? I mean, go look at the cost of energy prices in Massachusetts. Climate change is just going to make that worse, and they know it. And then you have the whack job transportation secretary who wants to tax everything from a postal truck to a UPS driver. It's insanity. And they're just going to go over there and basically discuss to the Pope and these other European leaders how they get away with that insanity.
Well, the Pope is a socialist too, and so is Maura Healey and her entire staff. So they're all going to go in there and sit around and talk about how they can put it to the rest of the world. People who believe in working and making their own decisions about their lives and everything else. And they're going to do it on your nickel, and that's the thing. It's just like we talked the other week about Mitchell going over to Israel. To essentially tell those folks how to deal with their problem with Gaza. Stay in your lane. I didn't elect her anyway, but I don't think the people of Massachusetts elected Maura Healey to go to Rome to sit around with the Pope and talk about how to solve climate change. That's not why she was elected. She was elected to get the bridges and roads fixed in Massachusetts, get the trains running on time. In my view, to lower taxes, although she hasn't done much to do that. Not to go to Italy and solve the world's problems on my nickel. Get the hell in your lane.
Well, that's what they do. And she went down to the southern border, or she went to a foreign country telling them to come here. It's just These people don't work for the taxpayers. And unfortunately, you have so many people in this state who don't see that. And this is when you don't put these people in office, because once they come out and they start talking, once you hear a politician start talking about climate change and they start talking about DEI inequality and the whole Black Lives Matter stuff, that's when you tune those people out. Anytime you see a politician who says they're also an activist, don't dare put those people in office, because then what they do, their policy becomes your policy.
Well, the
Your
sad
money
part
becomes
about
their
this,
money.
though, is I'm going to hear from now until Kingdom Come about, we poor seniors only get a 3% cost of living increase while inflation is so high and the cost of medical is so high and this and the other thing. We're going to hear about, Meals on Wheels and the lousy food we're getting and so on and so forth. We're going to hear about, homeless veterans being denied shelter in Massachusetts in favor of illegal immigrants. And yet these people go out and vote for these crooked criminal politicians who don't even hide their disdain for the taxpayers anymore. They just blatantly do it. Maura Healey, Michelle Wu, we're just going to take your money and we're going off for a nice vacation and hang with the Pope for a while. And, and they don't care about the human suffering back home. They promise you the moon. They lie out their buttholes to you, and then they laugh up their sleeve while you're suffering. And that's the reality of it. And I don't know when people are going to smarten up to that stuff. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate your call. 508-996-0500. Got to hit a break. We're coming right back after this.
I'm going back someday. Come what may to Blue Bayou, where the folks are fun and the world is mine on Blue Bayou.
All right, welcome back to the program, and an update on the Stewart bankruptcy case. There was a piece this morning in State House News Service reporting that a judge in Texas, a bankruptcy court judge, ruled in Texas that the bankrupt Stewart healthcare system can proceed with yesterday's payroll for its roughly 9,750 employees in Massachusetts and more than 20,000 others around the country. An early ruling in a court proceeding in which Massachusetts is among hundreds of interested parties. Stewart filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in Texas on Monday, seeking legal protection to restructure debt of between $1 billion and $10 billion while leaving its hospitals open. The company operates 8 Bay State hospitals and has been sinking under a pile of debt to vendors and its de facto landlord. So the judge in the bankruptcy case said that Stewart could go ahead with the payroll yesterday, but Channel 25 News in Boston just reporting about an hour or so ago that there has been some delays. Paychecks for some Stewart healthcare employees were not deposited into their bank accounts due to a banking processing error, the company's president said in a letter to employees this morning. The governor's office is looking into reports from Stewart employees who say their paychecks did not process today. We are aware that paychecks were not deposited today as scheduled. This is due to a processing error within the Bank of America system, Stewart Healthcare President Mark Rich said in a letter to Stewart employees today. Payroll and benefits for all employees have been funded, and they will begin to show in accounts over the next 24 hours, Rich said. Please check your account throughout the day and tomorrow. We follow all of Bank of America's procedures following Chapter 11 filing, and we were assured by them that this would not happen. We know this is not an easy time for any of you, and we apologize for the inconvenience, Rich said. Please let us know if you incur any late fees as a result of this, and we will cover those. Thank you for your continued commitment to our patients and communities during this time. The Channel 25 story goes on to say that the brief payroll delay occurred for some union members at 3 Stewart-owned hospitals, St. Anne's in Fall River, St. Elizabeth's, and Kearney. And according to the SEIU 1199 union, we expect it will be fully resolved by the end of today or tomorrow. State officials expect union employees to be paid today or tomorrow. The Massachusetts Nurses Association earlier said the issue was a delay in some checks being deposited because of this week's bankruptcy filing. They were told deposits should be in by Thursday night or Friday. Meanwhile, Stewart Hospitals or Stewart Healthcare wants to sell off all of its hospitals by the end of the summer. It has 31 hospitals all across the country. They will be auctioned off at the end of June. Stewart has 8 hospitals in Massachusetts, including Morton and Taunton and St. Anne's and Fall River. If we get more information on this, anybody that works at St. Anne's and Fall River that had an interruption today, maybe didn't get your paycheck, or maybe maybe you didn't get it at first and you've gotten it since, give us a call, 508-996-0500. We'd love to hear from you. It's a very difficult time for people that work at the hospital. Very difficult time for nurses. We heard about the survey nurses earlier this week. Talked about it yesterday. Deep distress. Nursing in Massachusetts. A lot of reasons cited. People just don't have confidence in the medical system. The people that are running the system or the politicians that are governing it. And had another piece of that. I wasn't going to get to that just yet, but see if I can find it real quickly. Here we go. I mentioned yesterday that there was going to be a kind of a rally of nurses on the State House steps or in the State House yesterday, and that did happen. Something that the nurses said kind of really disturbed me. A lot of what they said had to disturb me, but according to the Mass Nurses Association, there is a workplace violence incident every 38 minutes in Massachusetts. A violence incident on the workplace every 38 minutes in Massachusetts in a healthcare facility, whether it is by physical assault, verbal abuse, or threats. Citing statistics from the Massachusetts Health and Hospital Association, acts of violence against healthcare workers occur 5 to 12 times more frequently than the estimated rates for workers overall. I mean, that's an alarming environment to be in. Hospitals are understaffed. Healthcare workers leave for less dangerous professions, the union said. It's not so much that people don't like being nurses. The Nurses Association says this is not a recruitment problem, it's a retention problem. The nurses just don't like the situation that they're in, and they don't stay. 508-996-0500. Thanks for hanging on. You're next on WBSM.
Hey, good afternoon, Barry. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I didn't realize Maura Healey was going on a nice vacation. You know, you're absolutely right. These people, these Democrats, Maura Healey in this state, instead of putting the priorities straight, don't you think instead of her worrying about climate change, she should be worrying about the somewhat health crisis we have going on here in the state right now with the whole Stewart situation? Yeah. The situation with the hospitals, not knowing if they're going to get sold as an entire unit to someone, if they're going to get split up for sale, even what's going to happen with places like Hawthorne. Because, you know, I know that, you know, employees are being told, oh, you know, no worries, but there's a lot of things to worry about.
Oh, my God, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, from a patient's point of view, too, I mean, think about it. Most patients that are tied up in the Hawthorne, in Hawthorne, I mean, everything, all your medical stuff is there. I mean, personally, I've got, I think, 4 doctors at Hawthorne. I live there. They know me by my own room there, you know, I think. You know, I have my own coffee mug hanging up by the Keurig. And a lot of other folks do, too. So everything you do is there. If somehow or another that gets rattled, your entire medical existence is in danger.
Well, right now, I mean, we already have an issue. I've been trying to get. I'm a Hawthorne patient myself, and I have 3 or 4 doctors myself too. And I'm around your age. I think I've spent the last 6 months more time at Hawthorne at doctors than I've spent in the last 20 years with health issues. But the thing is, you know, you call And it's pretty funny because, you know, they're booked. Like, you can't, even if it's something really important, like, they just can't squeeze you in. But as an example, I went there last week, and, you know, after, like, kind of arguing, fighting with the secretary, she squeezed me in, and I got there, and the waiting room for this particular department, doctor, was empty. There were, like, only 2 patients there waiting, and I was kind of, like, taken back. I'm thinking to myself, well, they're so booked, they're so busy, but I'm getting here, and the waiting room is empty. It's not like it looked like, you know, a year ago where you would get there and it would be packed with people. So, first of all, I don't know what they're doing. And you know what the other big issue is? Because a lot of people are trying to have already lost, for whatever reason, their doctors at Stewart, because a lot of doctors are jumping ship to either go to Primacare or South Coast. Call around trying to get yourself a brand new primary doctor if you feel you're going to need one. Because you know what the answer is? Doctors have closed their new patients.
New enrollments. Yeah. I know my mother-in-law is 93 years old, right? She's had the same doctor probably since she was 10. And the woman is, like, out of her mind nuts, right? And she's got a private practice still. And my mother-in-law has been trying to get a new doctor, but who the hell wants to sign on a 93-year-old woman?
Well, but you know what? You don't have to be 93 years old. I've been talking to people who need, for example, a urologist. And they can't get a urologist because nobody's taking new patients. I mean, these are people that are like 50 years old. They're not even 90. Right. So, you know, there's a bigger problem and issue going on than what we're being told and what we're seeing. And I believe it's only going to get worse before it gets better. But, you know, Maura Healey, you know, lady, it's like you really need to forget about climate change. We got bigger
much bigger problems here in the Commonwealth. Thank you, my friend. Excellent call. I appreciate that very much. I've got to take a break, though. We're going to come back in just a second. Stay tuned.
When I look back, boy,
all right, welcome back. We have got to head into the newsroom, but before we go, WBSM can confirm, Tim Weisberg has confirmed this, that the employees out at Hawthorne Medical in Dartmouth did not get paid today. Employees at Hawthorne Medical in Dartmouth did not get paid today. Hawthorne Medical is of course, a property of Stewart, which filed bankruptcy on Monday. There was supposedly a banking issue with Bank of America, and funds were not put in or paid out or whatever. Also, some employees at St. Anne's, I don't know